Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of Lionsgate Podcast with Sahdi and Omni. I'm Omni.
And I'm Sahdi.
This episode's all about Reiki, energy work, and enlightenment. And today we have a very special guest. This is my friend, Arlene, and she is a Reiki practitioner.
Hi, everyone.
She runs her own business. She makes a living doing Reiki healings for people. What's the name of your business?
Continuous Celestial Healing.
And I'm going to speak on the healing I got from her. And I'm also going to be speaking on the healing I got from Sahdi. Arlene does Reiki, Sahdi does energy healing, and we're going to go over the differences between them and the similarities. I have some stories to tell. They both have experience and stories to tell of their own. So stay tuned as we go into this episode. Arlene, what was the first thing that led you into Reiki?
So I like to explain it as, I call it my love journey. My love journey started about, a few years ago, back in like 2014 is when I like to say it started. I wanted to know what my purpose in life was. And so I would write in my journals every day. I remember sitting outside on the stairs, looking at the stars and writing in the journal, what's my purpose? And I would always get to heal humanity. And I was like, what? Heal humanity? Like, who am I to heal humanity, right?
Aww.
That's something so big. At least I thought then. And then I realized that we are all here to heal humanity in some way or some form.
I'm getting chills. I'm
Me
getting
too.
chills. Yes.
And so then I just spent a whole year finding myself, I guess you could say. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a job. I lived at my mom's. I changed my diet. I cut out meat. I didn't have sugar for a whole year. That was crazy.
Damn, girl, you are a goddess.
That didn't last long, but I remember Googling, and mind you, back then when you would Google anything spiritual, there was not much on the subject. You could not find anything on stones, really, angel numbers. It was just taboo, I guess you could say. And I remember I found Reiki. And so when I looked into Reiki, it was just something to heal people, right? And so I was like, that's what I want to do. And I looked and I was like, where am I going to find a teacher? Who's going to teach me Reiki? It just seems so unattainable. And which then goes to say, everything happens in divine timing and when it's supposed to happen. Eventually, years later, I remember I was going through, I felt like my own crisis and I felt like I was in a dark hole. I honestly do not remember what I Googled, but I found a Reiki teacher. I called and I made an appointment and she's like, yes, come in. And then I remember when I showed up, she's like, your higher self made this appointment. And I was like, oh, well, that's nice to know. And then I didn't know much about it. And then from there, after I got my first session, that's when I was like, I want to do this. I want to help people feel the way that I felt on that table. It was amazing.
I love that.
When you said, I don't even remember what I Googled, I was like, divinely guided.
And that happens a lot when people are going through something traumatic in their own life or a dark night of the soul or something like that. You will be divinely guided towards your path.
Agreed.
So your Reiki teacher then, is that still your Reiki teacher now?
Yes. So I still get Reiki, I want to say kind of once a month if I can, if not more. I actually just got Reiki done 2 days ago by her.
If somebody's interested in it, what is their first step towards becoming maybe a practitioner?
I would find a master teacher who's gone through the training, or you can do it online. I haven't looked into it myself, but I've seen that you can take classes online. You can find someone in person. There's different levels. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think depending who you get it through, the main one is Usui's.
Okay.
That's the one that I got initiated through. And so with the levels, I am certified level 1 and 2. And with level 1, you can practice with yourself, with friends and family. Level 2, you still practice with your friends and family and yourself, but you get symbols introduced to you as well that are charged with different energies to help in the Reiki healing.
Okay. So symbols kind of like how sigils are charged with certain purposes or giving your crystals certain tasks.
Intentions and
Yeah. Okay. And that's from the founder of Reiki, essentially.
Correct.
Okay. So I got a healing from you about a week ago and it was amazing. I went over, she had this all white calming room and music and a massage table that you lay down on. And she was explaining some people lay differently, but I laid face down. And when she started working on me, I can't see what she's doing, but she started at the very top of my head. And a lot of people who don't like massages or certain kind of energy healings, they like to go to Reiki because you don't really touch a lot. So that's something one of my friends had mentioned when I talked about it. I could feel heat at the top of my head. I had a sense you were at the top of my head, but I didn't know exactly where you were, but I could tell where you were working because I could feel heat. She didn't have like a blow dryer on me or nothing. That's just the energy. And granted, I've never had a Reiki healing, so this was my first and only time. I had my eyes closed, and sometimes when I meditate, I'll see colors here and there, but this was completely different. And I saw a white light from the left side of my vision, but my eyes were closed. And usually if that happens, I think of one of my spirit guides or a spirit or something. At first I was thinking it was maybe one of your angels or something, but in hindsight, I'm like, that was one of my spirit guides. I'm assuming you were working down. And as soon as she put her hands on my head, I saw purple, and then I saw a female eye, just the eyeball, but it was female, had eyelashes and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. So that was a female spirit is what it was telling me. And then she started working down. And as she worked down, she'd be working on a different section. I was face down, eyes closed. I could tell which section she was working on because I could feel the heat of the energy. And then at the very end of working on each section, she'd just lay her hands gently on that section. And it was like instant confirmation that I knew where you were at. And she worked down, and then she went back around to my head. And the second time she was working on my head, I saw a white light from the right side, which is for me, that's male energy for me. And I was like, okay, it's a male spirit guide or whatever angel. I thought it was your angel at the time. And then I saw a male eyeball in purple. And when she went down before that, she was working down, I was seeing different colors on the back of my eyelids. And that never happens when I meditate. When I meditate, maybe one or two colors, but never a bunch of colors in each section. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, I do know enough to know that chakras are associated with different colors, but I don't know a whole lot about them before this. I've done research, obviously. Now we're doing this episode. And then I fell asleep for a little bit. I mean, our session was about an hour long. I don't think I was asleep that long. She said after I was like, I fell asleep. She's like, yeah, I felt you jerk awake. But when I woke up, my eyes were still shut because I was very aware of where I was at. But I could tell she had done a ton of work, or she had broke something loose, because instead of seeing one color, I was seeing a bunch of colors at the same time. And I was like, holy shit. She broke something loose in me because I'm seeing all of these colors, and I just knew that it was them all spinning the right way.
All your chakras were getting aligned. Well,
yeah.
That's kind of what Reiki, not kind of, but that's what I like to say Reiki is. I mean, we are hitting, just like acupuncture, there's different pressure points in our body, and chakras, they're all energy points that we have along our bodies. Some say there's 7, but in reality, we have like way more, like 20, 30 something different chakras that we have. I mean, we have them down to our palms, but the main ones are the 7. The root, solar, sacral, heart, throat, and your third eye, and then your crown. And they're each associated with all the different colors as well. Chakras can be overactive, underactive, or blocked.
So I compared it to a clock. When you open it up, there's all these different gears. And if they're not all going the correct way, your clock's not going to work the way it's supposed to. And that's the vision I got when I got that healing. And it's crazy too, because in my life, not to jump in too personally, that really shook something loose in my life that forced an event to deal with some trauma that I've carried with me that has stopped me or blocked me from healing a huge part of my child self. So I'm really grateful for it. I talked to Sahdi about it, and then the events that were going in my life, it all lined up perfectly. And I was like, oh man. So if you're struggling mentally and you feel like you're doing everything right, when you go get a healing, it's going to shake that stuff out. And I'm so grateful for it. In the moment, it was a little rough for me, but within a few days, I was like, man, I'm so grateful for this closure, because that's something I've been wanting for 6 years now. But everybody goes through that. And
But we all do. We all do go through that. And growth is painful sometimes.
Oh, very.
Sometimes a block can be there to protect you. And when that block is released, it's usually released at the perfect time. You're mentally and physically and spiritually ready to deal with that issue. And she was able to help you release that and unblock that, so you were open enough. You were an open channel to finally deal with the things that were blocking you.
Which that's something that I do know with Reiki. Every session is different for everyone. If you do get Reiki done, it will shake some things in you, whether it'll be that same night, the next day, or weeks. Because if you have your chakras, if they're overactive, underactive, or if they're blocked, and you go in there and you start working with the chakra, then it's going to trigger something.
Which it shouldn't be anything that you should be scared of. And I know that for me, the thought of healing is great, but the thought of the pain is fearful. And fear keeps us in the worst parts of ourselves, because it keeps you reliving Groundhog's Day, wanting things to get better, but you're stuck. So if you're stuck, go to a practitioner, see them, and that's going to push you out to do the healing that you're supposed to do. Because for me, I know a lot about shadow work and I've been working on it. Between both of your healings, it really healed probably the biggest part of my shadow, or it's helped me start to really heal the biggest part of my shadow that has hindered my spiritual journey and my everyday life.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad it was a great experience for you.
Do you have any stories of any sessions you've had that were out of the norm or unexpected?
One of my most recent sessions that I had, I normally don't take same day appointments just because I like to give myself some time because we are working with energy. I had someone make an appointment for the same day within like the 2 hours after they made the appointment. I'm like, whoa, but something in me, if I knew that I wasn't supposed to have that session, then I instantly would have been like, no, I wasn't prepared for it. But something in me was like, get the room ready. They're coming, whether you know them or not, just do it. And yeah, this guy came, and when I saw him, I felt like it was me the first day that I got my first Reiki session, and it was his first Reiki. He said he had a negative energy attachment to him. I just felt like he just in a dark place, like how, you know, a lot of us do get sometimes. And it was a very growing experience for them and for me as well.
I love hearing, because I've had experience with Sahdi, but it sounds like when you go through being the healer, you learn from your healing as well. What I'm assuming you're saying is I learned from that session too, that when I'm divinely meant to do stuff, I'm here, I'm an open channel, I'm going to do it and I'm going to learn. And I think I remember you telling me that it opened up doors to more things that you can do.
Oh, yes. It was interesting because it was within that same week. I had 2 sessions that were almost identical in the sense of I wasn't ready for them, but they were ready for me.
Yeah.
And after doing those 2 sessions, I finally realized how much power I hold. I found my
Your
power.
Yes.
With those 2 sessions. I've been giving Reiki for 3 years now, and that just happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about synchronicity earlier. It definitely opened the doors for other things, and I'm excited and I'm ready for this journey to keep going.
Yeah. What's our catchphrase? Keep your mind open. Yeah. We were talking about palms for a second, and I want to touch on a story because after I got that Reiki session, I was on my own journey of self-healing, and I decided to take a self-healing bath. I did rose petals and rose oils and pink candles and a burning pot with like mugwort and lavender and stuff. I made a TikTok about it. Check us out. But I was breathing that in. I've talked copious amount of times how the bathtub is my meditation spot. After last episode, everywhere is my meditation spot. But I was in the bathtub and I kind of went into a trance. And when I woke up, I had my hands clasped together like I was praying. And that's out of character for me. I mean, that's fine if that's how anybody else does it, but I just don't really pray with my hands closed. And the message I received was, your palms are very powerful. And I got visions of the few times I've been to church because my parents took me to a Pentecostal church when I was 16 and they would lay hands on people. I thought about when people put their palms up, and I thought about mudras, and it all transferred in my mind about the palms being a powerful healing part of the body. And when you clasp them together, you're healing yourself. And that was such a profound message to be delivered to me at that time. Because like I said, your session shook something loose that I've carried my whole life and I'm currently working through. And I've never thought of it that way. And then I got a healing from Sahdi, which was similar in some ways, but different in a lot of other ways. She came to my house with her massage table and I laid face up. And she's like, I usually light a candle. Didn't explain why, which is okay.
And I'll get into that.
Yeah. And so we're listening to healing music and she was breathing, having me breathe. And she was up at my head and I had my eyelids shut. I don't remember seeing colors, but I did feel the heat. And as she's going down and taking breaths and feeling out my body, she's like, okay, you got an attachment on the right side of my head. And she's like, I'm going to pull it out. So I just need you to visualize pushing it out as you breathe out. And it was the weirdest thing because I could feel the energy get pulled. It felt like, when you're in a tub and you pull the plug and it's draining. It kind of felt like that on my head. That's the best way I can describe it. And then she was feeling down my body. And then we did a quick healing session for 20 minutes just so I can see what it's like. She felt something in my heart chakra area between my solar plexus and my heart chakra, which is funny because Arlene was like, dude, your heart chakra's fucked up. She didn't say it like that. Hold on. I should say it like that. That my heart chakra needed some work. So she saw, you explained it like, when a straw gets gunked up, and she said the energy's not flowing back and forth like it should. It's almost calcified. So it's an old wound. And I'm being open about this. She went down to my uterus and was like, I ain't even fucking touching that. The reason being is what she explained to me afterwards is it could be very traumatic. And we were about to record our episode about meditation. So I wasn't trying to get a full healing at that time. I will.
Yeah, we would just want to do a quick 15, 20 minutes so you could see the difference in the energy work that I do compared to what Reiki feels like. And yeah, I hit a traumatic wound and I felt like that would be better dealt with when we had a full hour and a half to really deal with it. And there can be a lot of emotional things that come along with doing serious work on something like that.
You told me the story about the woman with the worm.
Oh, yeah. So I call it a worm because spiritually that's the way that it felt, but it's basically an energetic parasite and we pick up on them, and I can talk more in depth about that a little bit later. But I had a session with a woman and she had a wound that had to have been from childhood, and she was probably in her late 50s. And so that wound had been there for a really long time and there was attachment. And if you can imagine a wound festering and then it just becomes worse and worse and worse. That's kind of how this was. And her husband was there with me, and I actually needed help with this, so I was glad he was there. I started to pull on this energetic parasite, and it was probably as big around as a softball. As I was pulling, at first I only got a little piece of it, and I thought that was it. And then I started to do some energy work again over it, and I could feel there was more. So I started to pull, and I ended up pulling something out of her that was energetically about a foot long.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up having to do, because I use fire, and that's why I like candles. Some people use salt water bowls and things like that to dispel of the negative energy. But with this one, I had to fully take it outside and put it back into the earth.
Didn't you say the husband could see it?
The husband said that he could see it. He was like, whoa, what is that? And he said that it was like invisible, but he could see what I was pulling out of her. It had like a iridescent type look, but it was like almost like a grayish.
You know when like a road heats up and
That's
you can
what I
see?
was thinking.
That's what I was picking up on, girl. That's what I was envisioning.
That's what I was envisioning.
Yes.
It was exactly like that. And that was probably one of the most intense sessions that I've had. And she ended up having a severe reaction to that. She started coughing, and then she started dry heaving. And it was probably about 15, 20 minutes worth of her just crying and dry heaving and coughing. And it was her body adjusting to not having that there and trying to get out the last of the energy that was holding on.
Didn't you say she wet the bed?
Yeah, she peed her pants.
Yeah.
It was violent because I was taking something from her that had been attached and a part of her probably her entire life, and it had grown with her. So it didn't come out willingly.
Essentially, it was a part of her.
It was.
Yeah.
It was a very dark part of her. But with that, over the next couple weeks, she just flourished in so many different ways. And
That's what I love to hear.
Yeah.
she was so grateful to have that gone. And it took her a while to acclimate to her new energy vibration because it was keeping her in a low vibration. She called me and she was like, I'm just doing great and everything's going good in my life and I feel happier. And she was like, I'm not as judgmental anymore. And she was just noticing things that she didn't like about herself, you know, maybe be really judgmental about somebody. And then she was like, why am I like this? Why am I so judgmental? That was like one of the things. And she said that that was almost completely gone. It was more a sense of habit at that point.
Yeah.
But as soon as she would think a thought, she would just let it be released from her.
So when you were pulling the parasite from my head afterwards, you explained a headache. It was very specific, like behind the eye and stuff. And I'm very prone to headaches, hormonal headaches. I get headaches if I have like 2 drinks.
Yeah, but this one was very specific.
Yes.
It was in that certain eye and I could feel pressure behind your eye. And around your temple area.
And as soon as you said
And
it.
yeah, and weren't you even saying it felt almost like a surgery, kind of like the spotlight was like really hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like,
Do you know how these parasites start?
Okay, so this one, I was like, as soon as you explained this headache, I was like, that's my partner, because he's been experiencing these really gross headaches, and it's exactly in that spot. He
Same
didn't have,
eye and everything.
Same eye. He didn't have headaches like that until probably the last year he's been dealing with this. And you said you sleep in the same bed, and we share energy spiritually and everything. So I know I got that from him.
But you can pick up parasites in different ways. The way that Omni picked up this parasite was from her partner. So he must have picked it up somewhere. And since they're so close and their energy is so connected, she has picked it up from him.
He agreed to a healing, by the way.
Oh, did he?
I said, would you agree to a healing or anything like that to get rid of that? Because I don't want it again.
Yeah.
Well, see, with my man, he asks me for Reiki
Yes.
quite often. And I don't know why. At first I wasn't, but now I've given him a few sessions. And I remember my teacher asking, well, sit with yourself and ask, why don't you want to give him Reiki? And I'm like, I don't know. That's a good question. I should ask. And I think it was mainly just me not being ready.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you mentioned that, because it's reverse with me and my man. I do this all the time, and he's kind of had an emotional block towards it. He's let me do a few tarot readings for him in the 15 years we've been together, and I've done a little energy work on him. And I think because we've been together for so long, and anybody who's been in a long relationship, sometimes you get comfortable, and that comfortability leads to almost a block between you two. You just get so comfortable. You're like, oh, there's nothing wrong in our relationship, but then nothing is happening in the relationship. And so we recently went through that. And he asked me for a session. I gave him the full session. I gave him the energy work and the sound healing. And I do something that's called a spiritual sponge bath. It's where I have a mixture of these herbs that I have, and I use warm washcloths, and I use my channeling energy with the water and the herbs. And I start from the top of your head and I go all the way down to the bottom of your feet. It's like a half an hour process. I ended up doing this whole spiritual session with him, and I found things within his energy that I didn't know was there. And so I was kind of feeling guilty. I've been with you for 15 years. I love you. I'm connected to you. This is what I do for a living. And I didn't know that that wound was there, that that part of you existed. It was great for both of us. So when you said that maybe there's a block with you and your person, that maybe there's something in there that you almost don't want to see.
Yes. And I just connected that right now. That's what I picked up, that it must be something that's so traumatic for him that I would probably pick up, because he acts like he has a lot of trauma, and not in a bad way or anything, but you can tell that he needs some healing.
Yeah.
And he knows it too. That's why he asks me for Reiki all the time. And now that I sit and think about it, I'm like, okay, that's probably why. But no, what was interesting when I gave him Reiki for the first time, though, I had never channeled pets before. His dog, Gracie, that passed away years ago, came through. He told me about her, but I didn't know what she looked like.
Yeah.
I didn't know what type of dog or anything. Next thing you know, I'm giving him Reiki and the dog's trying to come through. And I'm over here like, I was laughing because I'm like, I had never had a pet come through.
I forgot she channeled a message for me through my Reiki session, and I really needed to hear this. I got in the car and cried, by the way. I don't like crying in front of people, but I got in the car and cried. She goes, I got a message for you too. Sorry, not to interrupt your story.
No,
but it says, you are strong and keep going. And I was like, I needed to hear that so bad. So thank you. But anyways, go ahead. You dog.
Yeah. And so I saw Gracie. All she said was, tell him I'm okay, I'm happy, and I'm in a good place. He did cry afterwards.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. And then he explained what happened and how she passed away and how he never really got to say bye, because when they showed up, she was already.
Oh,
and
poor thing.
Yeah. It was like their childhood dog, and he never got to say bye.
For Reiki, you have to be certified, right?
You get initiated by the teacher, and only the level 3, the master teachers, they're the ones that can initiate and do like whole
ceremony?
Not necessarily, because I was literally just sitting there with my eyes closed.
Oh, like meditations session?
She did her own thing around me, whatever that
Oh.
entailed. I guess it stays private, so I don't really know what it is.
Yeah, because you would learn when you get to the level where you want to teach. Okay, that makes sense.
Mine was triggered by my near-death experience.
Yeah.
And then I was able to see auras.
So when you're doing energy work, do you look at the aura at all?
I do. So I can see the aura and I can feel it.
Okay.
As I'm going over certain areas, I can see the color of the aura. So if it's a dingy color and it's supposed to be a high yellow, like a yellow traffic light, and I see that it's really dull, like a mustard yellow or something, I know that there's work that needs to be done in that area. So I will take an extra feel with my hands on it. And then as soon as I do that, I can see it and I can feel it. And then I get the message from spirit on what to do next.
Oh, okay. You mentioned one time about auras having layers.
Yeah. Within our energetic system, because we were talking about chakras, they have specific colors. But our aura, I mean, we can have green on the left side and yellow on the right side of our head, can have red in our chest. It doesn't follow the pattern of the chakras.
Almost like if you were looking through what are those?
Oh, infrared.
That's kind of what it reminds me of, where you can see colors around. And then on one side it can be one color and the other side it can be a different color.
They can change. Mine usually stays consistently the same. And I'm like, I kind of want mine to change. I don't know what that's like. Every time I look at it, I'm like, yep, you're still the same. But yeah, so you can have different colors in your energetic field because it's separate from your chakras.
Well, with Reiki, that's how, when I do the bioscan before I start the session, so the further away I am from the body, that's where I am with the aura and the energetic field. The closer I get to your physical body, if I'm touching you, that's the more closer to your cellular level. So it's different healing you get when I'm outer and closer.
No, I resonate with that a lot because you can pinpoint things that are going on in someone's aura before it gets to their physical body if you're able to see and feel the aura from around.
Yeah, I think we were touching that earlier about how it starts in your aura and then it penetrates into your physical body.
Yeah, when I first had my NDE, I saw it on everything and had no control over it, and it was really disorienting. And I didn't like it. I feel like it's a little bit rude for me to do that unless someone invites me into their energy. It's like if somebody could have x-ray vision and see without your clothes on. That would be a little bit invasive and intrusive to just walk around and read people's energy without their permission. And when I first started to learn how to do it, I couldn't help myself.
Couldn't turn it off.
I couldn't turn it off, and then it would turn on and off in the most inopportune moments. But now I've learned to control it, and I have a higher respect for it. So I don't see it unless I put myself into a certain mindset and energy, and then I have the permission of the other person. I mean, unless it's somebody that I need to check them out to make sure they're cool around my kids. When my kids bring home a new person, I'm going to fucking look at your aura. I don't care. I'm not asking permission. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So my near-death experience. And then I just started playing with energy. So I started figuring out that I could manipulate energy with my hands. And I started doing it while I was awake, and then I started playing with energy while I was in lucid dream state. So when I started researching different forms of energy manipulation, because I was like, well, what kind of energy manipulation am I doing? Because I was never taught how to do it. I resonate more with the pranic healing and the shamanic healing. Both of them are more like a masculine way to do things, where versus Reiki is more of a feminine energy. The way that I do things, I work with fire energy. And from what I understand what Reiki is about, it's putting universal love and light energy into someone. What I do is more like a surgery. I can sense and feel where there are traumas and pain and darkness within the energetic system and the aura. And then I go in there and I take that out.
Don't you fill it back up?
I do afterward. And I send love and healing vibrations to that area. So maybe it's a little bit of both. Just the way that I feel energy is a little bit different because I've learned how to play with energy.
I do want to say one thing. You keep saying the word manipulate. I know what you mean by manipulate, but for those who are listening, what do you mean by manipulate?
So when I first started playing with energy, I used the palms of my hands and I imagined that I had 2 magnets in my palms. While I was doing this, I was noticing that the palms of my hand were getting super hot. And I would catch something that I call an energy ball. And it would feel like my palms were being repelled away from each other, as if I had a magnet in each one of my palms that was radiating heat. And I would play with that energy and I would make it bigger and smaller. And then I realized that I could program that energy in my life and what I've experienced. I feel like energy is more neutral and it has to react with something to have a charge. So it could be negative or positive or somewhere in between. So when I'm playing with the energy, I could say, I'm sending this energy, love and peace and tranquility. And then I could put that into other things like humans or into my own body or into my energetic field or while I'm doing spells or something like that. Basically, it was just me, trial and error. Nobody taught me how to do anything, which would have been nice probably to have a guide or somebody that could have led me through that experience. So when I say manipulating energy, that's what I'm talking about. So if I'm scanning someone's body and I'm going over certain chakras and energy systems within their body, I can feel something repel or I can feel something draw me closer. And because I'm able to see auras, I can see it and I can feel it with my hands. So I can take that energy, and I don't necessarily have to pull things out of people every single time. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of manipulating the energy around. And I don't know until I get in there exactly what's going to happen. Sometimes somebody can have an overactive throat chakra and an unblock in their heart chakra. So sometimes I can just move a little bit of the energy from the throat chakra and put it into the heart chakra, and it just kind of balances each other out. And so all the systems are working at the same speed.
You know, I had talked to this girl that was having a huge awakening, like visions and all this stuff. And she was talking to me about all of it, but she was doing all this research. She talked about every night when she went to bed, and she was self-taught completely, and she couldn't talk to anybody about it because she felt like everybody in her life at that time would think she's crazy. And so she was communicating only with me, which was great, but I couldn't keep up with her because she was just on fire with researching everything. And she said before she went to bed, she imagined having a ball of light in her hands. And this was her just like within a month or two. So girl, she's fast tracked to enlightenment. And she said that she pictured it was a ball of light full of love, and she pictured it getting bigger and bigger. And eventually she would get it big enough to encase her house, and it was a protection.
Yep, exactly.
That's what I do.
That's what you do?
Yeah, that's what I do too.
I've never heard of it before her.
And you can put it around
Bubble.
yourself.
Bubble around your family. I do my family, my house.
And I do it every single time I do energy work.
You have to.
I don't know if I'm missing something, but I always correlate it to wearing like a wetsuit in the ocean. I have protection around me, but there are sometimes with certain healing sessions that I do pick up on a little bit of the energy. I did a energy session for someone who had stage 4 cancer. And even though I was heavily protected when I did this for her, I thought I was okay on the way home. And then I got home and I felt like I had a film. And I was thankful that I knew what the energy of cancer felt like because I experienced it as an energy. The feeling of what that is. And it kind of felt filmy to me. And it was very specific. I ended up having to do a lot of things to clear that energy out spiritually. But now when I come in contact with someone who has cancer, I know what it is. I know what it feels like.
Oh, wow.
I'm grateful that I'm not completely shielded from things like this when I do readings, because then I was able to be like, oh, now I know what cancer feels like. So when I'm in the energy of cancer, I immediately know what it means.
So if someone's not diagnosed and you're standing next to them, you'll be able to know.
If I touch them and they let me get into their energy, I would know that they had cancer.
It's not awesome. That sounds bad.
Yeah, it's like when you smell something dead, you always
amazing.
know that's a specific smell, and you will know it anytime you smell it. You're like, oh, something died. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we talk about cats being crystals or cats being interdimensional. There are thousands of reports of cats being able to see when people are going to die or people that have cancer.
Yeah.
Dogs too, they'll howl at night.
Yeah, and there are specific energies with different things. I have just been trial and error. That's how I got into what I do. And some of my experience has been really cool. And like we were saying in the very beginning, every time I do a reading, I am connecting with someone else's higher self and their spirit guides, and I'm learning, because as soon as I'm saying the information to the person I'm giving a reading for, I'm hearing it for the first time as well. So I'm gaining something out of the experience. Some are more powerful than others, but I always gain some kind of wisdom or knowledge anytime I do energy work, anytime I do tarot, anytime somebody opens up to me and lets me into their energy, I learned something from that.
Oh, for sure. So when I give a Reiki session, before I start, I call on my angels, my healing guides, the ascended masters, and also the other person that I'm giving the healing to. I call on their healing guides, their ancestors, whoever wants to come to heal and help us through this healing session can come through.
That's why you get messages.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I allow anyone who wants to come in, but only for my highest good, for their highest good, through the divine. That's a big thing. Protection. Protection. I learned the hard way, especially when I first started my journey. I had no idea what protection was. I was like, ooh, I'm seeing angel numbers. Ooh, I'm connecting to myself. I started diving deep, and I got something attached to me. I telepathically called my aunt. I had no idea. I telepathically called my aunt, who's a medium. I remember I was in the middle of painting, and out of nowhere, I just started getting all these downloads. So many downloads that I thought I was going crazy. And I was just like, whoa, I don't know what to do with all this information. And I instantly thought, call your tia Irma. And I was like, okay. So I thought about calling my aunt, didn't call her. My grandma comes knocking on my door. She's like, hey, your aunt's calling you. I'm like, what? So I'm about to step out. And she says, no, it's on the phone. I get on the phone and I'm like, hello? She's like, you called me? I'm like, no, I didn't. She's like, yes, you called me. I'm like, I guess I did. I started crying, and I remember I was trying to explain to her. I remember telling her the universe is our teacher and we're just learning. And she's like, whoa, hold on. Come over, bring your mom. If she wants to come. And I just remember it was just the weirdest thing. My energy was, I don't even know what was
off
going
the
on.
charts.
I was about to say that, but yeah.
Because I remember picking up on your energy.
Well, because I remember in that moment asking my mom to come with me, and my mom didn't want to come. And I just remember instantly thinking, you're coming with me. And then right away, my mom was just like, I'm going with you. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I was manifesting instantly. It was crazy. And then I remember getting in the taxi and just picking up the taxi driver's negative energy. It was disgusting. And I was like, it was like my first time opening up to this.
You became a magnet.
Yeah. To everything. And so then next thing you know, I get to my aunt's, and that's when she just drops the load, and she's just like, I've been seeing them follow you since you were little, which she was talking about angels. She's like, they've been with you at all times. And then that's when I remember feeling them for the first time, and I started crying, and she's like, that's them. They're here with you. And I was like, what? And so like, it's my first time actually like feeling my angels, right? I just found this out like a couple weeks ago.
Synchronicity.
I had a negative attachment. And I remember it happening. I remember when it happened, and my aunt's like, yeah, I got rid of that for you. You had negative energy.
Were you young?
I must have been 18,
okay.
17. Yeah, I didn't get my driver's license until I was like 19.
No judgment.
And so I remember feeling good afterwards. And next thing you know, a couple of weeks ago, my aunt calls me and she says, do you remember when you came over to my house with your mom? And I said, yes. And she said, well, I need you to do what I did for you. At the time, I'm still confused. I don't know what she did to me that time, you know?
Right.
And so then I'm going back and forth because I know she's a medium.
Yeah.
And I've never really talked to her about any of that. I don't know, what is this going to entail? I don't know. I was second guessing myself. Like I said earlier, something inside tells me you need to do it.
Yeah. Trust your intuition.
Yeah. And I remember she was just sounding so in need of healing. And I just remember when I showed up, it all just clicked. Going full circle back to all of that. It was just crazy. Because even like how I said that one session that I also had a couple weeks ago, he was explaining everything that I was going through in that other time. Synchronicity.
Yes.
It's wild how the universe works and how it just brings everything back full circle.
That's amazing. Wait, so Sahdi, if you need to heal yourself.
Okay, so
I mean, do you heal yourself or do you have to go to somebody else?
it would be a lot easier because when I'm working with somebody else, I'm in my full power. I'm calling on my ancestors and my higher self and my guides, and I've got all this protection around me. And it's really easy for me to tap into somebody's energy and heal them. But for myself, it's a little bit harder. especially if I'm going through something and my vibration is low. So what I do in those circumstances is I do what's called a body scanning. That's what I call it, where I'll get into a meditative or trance-like state, and I'll start with my toes and I'll work my way up, and I will try to feel where there's any inconsistency with my energy. And when I feel those, I start sending loving, positive energy to those areas. And I'll just work on them until I feel like they're in a neutral state. But yeah, it would be a lot easier if I had somebody that I trusted that would be able to help
now,
me.
girl.
Yes.
And it's like that when I do tarot as well.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to give myself a tarot reading that's accurate because I'm in my ego and I'm like, that card wasn't right. Let me flip another one. It's just so hard when I'm in it. But when I'm doing it for somebody else, it just comes second nature to me. It's so natural.
Because you don't have any stakes in the game at that point.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
It's your own energy blocking it, I feel like.
I can do it, but it's a weird way that I have to do it. I almost have to sit at a table and imagine myself sitting across from me. And I have to go into this trance-like state.
Out of body.
Yeah, almost disassociate myself from myself, if that makes any sense. And so it can get really deep, and I have done them for myself before, and I'll get done with it and I'll be like, holy shit, that was like the best reading I've ever done.
Very introspective.
Yeah. Okay. So in Reiki, is there self-healing, or do you just always go to another practitioner?
I mean, we're always in need of healing, and we always can need others other than ourselves.
Yes.
But with Reiki, yes, I get healing when I'm giving healing.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Because it's technically coming through me to them. So I don't exert much energy. But what I'm learning is that if I'm channeling while I'm giving Reiki, I do lose energy.
Okay.
So I've only had one Reiki session in my life. It must have been the person that was doing it. She said that she was a Reiki master, and it was at like a convention. It was like $1 per minute. So I was like, oh, I'll do a 5-minute little Reiki session, just see what it's like. Because I'm a lot like you. When I'm channeling, I'm also clearing my own energy, and I do that often. But I was like, I want to see what Reiki's like. And I did feel the warmth on my forehead, like you were explaining. But then for 2 or 3 days after that, I could still feel her energy with me.
Oh, wow.
I was having thoughts that were not my own. And I was feeling like I could still feel her hand there. And I felt like her energy somehow had transferred to me, and I didn't like it.
Oh, you're a medium, so that's
maybe
different.
that's what it was too, because I was so open. I was seeing colors and sacred geometry in my mind while she was doing it, and I was so open to the experience. And I'm a medium, so I'm like, yeah, give me Reiki. Like, I want to see what this is. And then she was like there with me. It took me like 3 days to get rid of her.
I don't know if that's what happens, but we're supposed to close the session after we're done, because we can still be doing healing when neither of us want the healing, but we're still out in the astral. If I don't close the session, I will still be giving the other person healing. I have to close the session.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe she fucked up with me and just forgot to close the session or something.
Which happens.
I could almost like smell things differently. It was so weird.
You got her on you.
I had her all in my energetic system.
And you're also a lot more sensitive to all the energy and
true.
stuff. So maybe it happens to other people and other people don't realize it because they're not as sensitive with energy. I don't know. But
Right.
it can happen.
But I'd be willing to get another session. I want to do one with you.
Hell yeah.
For sure.
So, Sahdi, when you do a self-scan and you find a parasite, can you pull it out of yourself? How does that work?
I can. Because I do daily meditations and I give myself scans so often, I don't really run into the problem where I have huge energy parasites attached to me. But I kind of, at the energy parasites, a lot like you can pick them up in the astral realm. You can pick them up in lucid dreams. You can pick them up when you're meditating, even sometimes. And I don't mean to like scare anybody away from meditating, but you're entering different realms and your spiritual body can pick up on things. Just like here in the third dimension, you could eat a burger and end up with some kind of parasite from the foods that you eat or the environment that you're in, especially if you're in a new environment and you're not used to protecting yourself and you enter these different astral levels or realms. You can sometimes pick up things that way. You can pick them up like the way that you did from contact with other people that have things connected to them as well.
How would you protect yourself from getting those?
If you want to think about them just as a different vibration medication, but the same type of parasites that you have here. So say you've been feeling sluggish and you've been noticing things about your body. You might have some parasites inside your actual body. The best way to do that is you could go to a doctor and they could give you some medication. It would treat that, but then you would have dead parasites within your body. And I feel like the best way to do it would be something a little more high vibrational, like doing a 3-day fast, drinking wormwood, cleansing your entire body with nothing but organic juice and fruit and things like that. Lots of water, lots of herbal teas and herbal remedies.
That's a great way to put it. I did not think of it that way, of going to Western medication and having it mask it. I mean, I knew it does mask it. It doesn't really completely heal, but when you do an alternative, more holistic.
Right. And then just cleanse your body. You can do the same thing with your energetic system.
Actually flushes it out.
You flush it out and you disconnect from your phone and from the internet and from toxic people, and you give your energy a detox. And that would help. In some cases, people really do need medication, and I'm not a doctor, so I just want to make that clear. But for the most part, disease is dis-ease when you break it down. So when you're accumulating these parasites or different negative energies from the astral and you're picking those up into your own energy, you could take medicine. I'm depressed, or I'm feeling anxiety, or I'm feeling these low vibrational things. You could go to a doctor, you get a medication for it, but it's just going to repress it.
And it also, a lot of our quote unquote problems, whether it's physical, mental, or whatever, they do really start in our aura or our energy field around our physical body before it actually penetrates into our physical bodies. If we catch it soon enough outside, like within our aura or our energy body, before it gets to our physical body, we can prevent that disease.
Ooh.
But it generally starts around us before it gets to our physical body.
I mean, I have a friend of mine right now that she has a tattoo of a spider web across her throat chakra. And ever since she got that, she was having trouble expressing her emotions and stuff. And she didn't put the 2 and 2 together until I brought it up years later. She's had the tattoo for like over 10 years. So she had a very big energy block there, and she put a symbol over her throat chakra that was very constricting. And then she had trouble speaking her mind, people not understanding how she was trying to communicate. And she ended up with 3 throat surgeries and 2 spinal surgeries within that energy.
Oh, man.
Energy's powerful.
It's very powerful. So it could have something started within that energetic field, and then it manifested into the physical. So I would just say preventive measures, protecting your energy and really tapping in to your own energy, and then seeking out people like me, Reiki, someone that you can trust in your area to help you with that if you're struggling.
Yeah. No, we talked about earlier the story about the woman when you withdrew the parasite. How do you get rid of them when you pull them out as a practitioner?
When I pull them out, I use fire. So I always have a candle lit when I do it. Occasionally, with something that's more gentle, I can use salt water. I just keep a bowl of warm salt water and I'll place my hands in that. Sometimes I'll do a mixture of the two, but usually I use fire. So I hold the energy within my hands, and then I take it to the fire and I release it into the fire. Only rare circumstances would I ever have to actually take that energy outside of the home and do a ceremony with it and bury it and give it to the earth and say prayers and mantras over that to protect that area.
Okay, so you're an energy worker and Arlene's a Reiki practitioner. You do work with chakras still though, right?
Generally, that's what I do. It seems really similar to what you do. On a basic session, I start by just scanning the body and feeling where the different chakra points may be overactive or underactive. And then I adjust that. So I use my energy that I'm channeling from source, and I manipulate the chakras because some might be overactive, some might be underactive. So root might be underactive, and your crown chakra could be just like through the roof. And so you can be having this mixture of energy. It was like manic almost, because of these 2 opposite ends of your aura energy is going in 2 different directions. And I've even found on occasion where a chakra will be going in reverse and it's going the opposite direction. And you have to do some serious work with that as well. That's how I do it. And then if I'm in there and I feel a serious wound, I will ask the person, so I'm feeling a wound here, would you like to continue? Because anytime you're doing energy work, sometimes people might not be ready for that type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I can be very gentle and calm. Not every single time I do an energy session, I'm going to be pulling out parasites. And on an average session, it's very peaceful and tranquil. And people get messages from maybe people that have crossed over in their life, or spirit has a message. Just like you were saying, I always get at least a few messages that come through from spirit directly, something that they need to hear in this moment.
You know, from my feeling, from my experience with the both of you, it really feels like, Sahdi, you help the energy flow from one end to the other. And Arlene, you help the chakra spin like a clock. You make sure the clock's working, and Sahdi makes sure that the plumbing's working. So that's how I picture it in my head, since I got both.
I was explaining this earlier. The way I see the differences between us is if your energy is kind of murky, our bodies are made up of 70-something% water or something like that. So imagine a glass of murky water. And when she comes in with the Reiki, she's putting this life force energy into the cup, and she's giving it pure, fresh water. As she's pushing that in, eventually that glass will be clear.
I don't do the work for them. They have to do the work for themselves. Sorry, I just had to
Oh,
say
no,
that.
okay.
No, I like that. You got a message.
Yeah.
You got a message through that? Yeah. And that's true. You can't do the work for somebody else, but you can help them get to a place where it's not so difficult.
Yeah.
So if somebody's in this serious depression, they might want to go to a counselor and get a little bit of counseling, get a little bit more knowledge and understanding or overstanding under their belt. And then they can get to a base level where they can thrive if they choose to.
Yeah.
So we can help them get there energetically.
Yeah.
Well, because I've been connecting with my shaman roots. Angels and shamans, two different vibrations. With the shamans, everything has a spirit. Everything. I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm starting to understand so much more. So keep talking.
Okay. So that glass being filled and filtered over and over again of like repetitive clear water until it's clear. And for me, when I go in to do a session, I'm just like, oh, there's a dirty glass there. I'm going to pour all that shit out, empty the glass, and then I'm going to fill it with life force energy.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're getting to the same outcome, but we just have different ways of coming through and getting that same effect.
You're the shaman. You're doing the shaman work because that's what it is.
Oh.
And it's hard for a lot of
Yeah.
people because the type of work that I'm doing isn't as gentle.
It's not.
It's more of a masculine energy. And so when I'm doing this, you might throw up, you might cry, you might pee your pants.
My two decks, because I have an angels, gods, and goddesses deck, and then I have a shaman deck. And when I do my gods and goddesses oracle deck and angels, it's a lighter feel. It's more joyful. It's like more loving. I'm not saying my shaman deck isn't, but with my shaman deck, it's more of like, this is what you need to hear. There's no messing around. I was mentioning to Omni the other day that I was doing a reading, and every single reading I would get the same card. And like how we were talking earlier, it's like, I don't know, is this for me? And so I started laughing, and I was like, no. And I instantly got the energy of like, stop laughing. This is serious.
It's
you
serious.
obviously haven't learned because you keep getting the same card.
Yeah.
And I'm over here like, but with my angels, if I would have gotten the same card with the angels, they would have just been loving. And it's just like, do it again, you know?
Yeah,
like,
and that's how I feel too. I have a few different parts of myself. So when I'm doing readings, most of the time I'm very gentle with my readings. This is what's going on, and I'm going to help you through it. And we're going to get through this together. And this is the love and guidance. And you don't have to have free will, but this is just the direction that would lead you to your highest purpose or whatever. And it's very gentle. But when I'm doing energy work, I'm going to go deep to your womb. There's trauma in your womb, and this is where it stems from. And we're going to clear all that trauma out. It's going to fucking hurt. But then we're going to heal it, and it's going to take time. And then you have to continue that process of I'm sending you back into the world with this wound. It's still there, and it's going to take some time to heal. And now you have to do the work to make sure it doesn't get reinfected.
I'm learning and I'm growing every time you speak. I'm like, yes, yes,
you.
queen, yes. We're relearning everything. So when you're talking, I'm over here like, yes, oh my gosh, yes.
I feel
and
the same way about you when you're talking.
And I'm connecting everything.
I know. I'm like crying.
Oh, I'm connecting everything. Oh my gosh, like that makes so much sense. When you're talking about the masculine energy and the feminine energy.
You need both.
Yes, both exist. And so I've been trying to balance both, but in my spirituality, I've also been trying to balance both, but I didn't understand how or what they each were. And the way you're explaining, the shamanistic is more masculine, and then my angel side is more feminine side. And so I get to use both, which I love because now I'm
Yes.
learning when to use them. Like how you were saying, when I have to pull my shaman deck out, that's when it's like, okay, I want a serious question. This is more intense. This is like a battling type of situation. My goddesses and angel deck is more of like flowy and joyful. Like,
And that's the beauty of it, because energy fluctuates. It's like ebb and flow. I would just say to anybody that's out there listening that wants to get into energy work and energy manipulation, play with the energy, because I've made mistakes along the way, and it just happens. You can't just learn what you're going to learn and expect yourself to not make any mistakes along the way, but the mistakes sometimes can be your biggest teacher.
I'm barely touching into my mediumship skills. A couple weeks ago, I opened up a realm. I had no idea. I instantly saw spirit guide come through, big black wings. I'm here to protect and guide you. I was like, okay. And then they were like, you need to be careful. You can invoke an evil spirit. And then from there, I was like, oh shit. That's when I went back and I didn't realize that I was still not here. So then I had to come back. And that's when I was like, shit, what did I do? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Did I fuck up? I didn't mean to do that. I wasn't intentionally trying to invoke an evil spirit. I felt bad. And all I could hear from spirit was, it's okay. Mistakes happen. You have to learn somehow. You had to do that in order to know what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
In my experience, I think the best healers and people that are on the shamanistic journey, that are on this path, they have to go through the dark and the light. I have reached from what I believe was the 12th dimension. I have been in the hell state, and I've learned to maneuver in both realms. The highest that I can vibrationally go is the 12th dimension. And I'm sure there are people that can go a lot higher than that, but that's where I am on my journey right now. And I have been to really dark hell states as well. I'm not afraid of the light or the dark. I've learned to navigate through both, and they both have their beauty. Some people be like, oh God, don't use the Ouija board. It's going to bring it. Well, some people thrive in that realm. And I kind of compare it to as above, so below, so within, so without. Here in the third dimension, I have friends that I've known for a really long time that play in an area where a lot of people don't feel comfortable. And I know that in certain situations, I could call on those people and they would have my back in a heartbeat. And there are friends that I know that are in very different vibrational states that might come from a very good part of town and have a lot of money or be an attorney or an accountant or something like that. And I would call on them for certain things, and I know that they would have my back. In certain situations, I have to call on certain friends or tribe or support team. The people in one might condemn the people in the other. I feel like I need an equal balance in my life of people that surround me. If I'm in a certain situation, I might have to call the ones that are on what some people would consider the lower vibrational side of the realm on this third dimension. And I feel like it's the same in the astral. So I've learned how to connect with deities that are on the lower end of the vibration, and then deities that are on the higher. And during certain situations, I can't call always on the higher vibrational beings to come and help me with a situation that I need to call my lower vibrational friends for. They're going to come through for me in that aspect. So it's something you're passionate about in your heart. And every time you keep getting synchronistic messages coming through that this is what you need to do. You talked about in the beginning about how you found your spiritual path. And sometimes it doesn't end there. Sometimes you're like really attracted to one thing, and then it takes you somewhere else. And that takes you somewhere else, and you start off on a healing journey, you end up somewhere completely different.
Oh, yeah.
This is a game.
Nothing is bad.
I look at this existence like it's a game. We're here to play. We're here to experience everything. We're here to experience war and poverty and starvation.
That's what Earth is.
Yeah, it's everything. And love and birthing children and creating everything in between.
It's your birthright too.
Yeah, we are here to experience the lowest of lows and the highest of highs, and experience that in physical form.
And we wouldn't be able to without Mother Gaia.
Exactly.
So without Mother Earth, we would not be able to experience the good, the bad, the ugly, the up, the down, everything, the polarity.
Absolutely.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that leads me right into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which was chakras. And a lot of people don't know. They think about the 7 primary chakras. There's actually 13 chakras. Well, there's more than that. There's over 100 chakra systems within your body, but these are the main ones. So you have the 7 primary, and then you have several secondaries as well. And so it starts with 0, and 0 is the Earth Star chakra. And that is what tethers you to Mother Earth. That is the very, very first chakra, and it stems from the root of your feet. It was beautiful that we connected on that.
That reminds me, the 0 chakra, I do a guided meditation. It's on YouTube, by the way. It's an angel guided meditation, and it's my favorite. I remember the first time I did it, I cried because it really, really released some stuff. But she goes through all the chakras as you're opening up all the chakras, and she starts off with the 0 one, and then she calls all the archangels to come and help heal. Every chakra has a archangel associated to it.
Yes, it does.
Oh, I didn't know that.
In that meditation, she calls on every archangel to help you heal every. So yeah, that's one of my favorite meditations.
Right. And then there's the root chakra, base of the spine, and then they go up the sacral, the solar plex, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And then there's the 8th chakra, and that's the higher heart chakra, and it's usually pink, and it's right in the chest bone area, between the chest bone and the sternum, and it's love, compassion, and immunity. So it really helps with your immune system and things like that, and processing and filtering matters of the heart. And then we have 9 is the lunar chakra. It's between the sacral and the root, and it's the divine feminine wisdom. So you have the divine feminine in the lunar chakra, and then you have 10, which is the golden solar star, and that's connected with the divine masculine. That's your courage and health. And then 11 is the galactic chakra, and that's where we connect to different realities and realms and dimensions and consciousness, and that's where we have access to the Akashic records. So doing meditations on that chakra is what's going to help you connect to the Akashic records.
Okay.
And that's between the solar and the sacral.
Okay, the Akashic records, for our listeners that don't know what that is.
Okay. The Akashic records, I think of it like a cloud.
I like to say it's the book of life.
Where all of our
everything
is stored. Your past life, your present life, your future life, everything is stored there like in a memory bank.
All the incarnations, everything.
Have you connected to the Akashic records?
I have not personally connected to the Akashic records. I had a soul reading done by my teacher. That's how she got the soul reading, is through the Akashic records, is what she told me. Have you pulled out any information, Sahdi, out of the Akashic records?
Oh God, yes. I love it there. That's my spot. I'm really connected to the Akashic records. I've gone back so far. One time I went back to where I was actually plant life.
What?
I wasn't even a human. I think I was on a different planet.
Do you pull records for other people?
I can when I'm really deep in somebody's energy.
I was going to say, do they have to allow you to be able to?
They have to allow me to have access to their Akashic records. And then they have to be in a vibration where they're completely open, because sometimes I just can't get to it. There's blocks there, and those are there for a reason, because they're not on a spiritual level. It's like access denied, like a sealed place where I can go to certain places in their Akashic, but unless they're open or they're doing the right things spiritually, it's kind of like a level, like a grade system. Okay, if you're in high school on this spiritual level, you're not really going to be allowed in here. We've got these locked away, and it's private, even to the person who has their Akashic records. But they can do some certain things. It can elevate them to a higher level, and then it unlocks doors in the Akashic records for them. But sometimes I get in there and I'm like, I can't see shit.
Okay.
I can only see this lifetime.
So if somebody's getting a past life reading, is that what you do? Is you go to the Akashic records?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, when I got my soul reading done, I remember her telling me that she accessed the Akashic records to get it, but she got past lives, she got where my soul was from, she got things that would help me in this life to get me where I need to be, associated with my past lives. I remember she put 6 different past lives on there that I needed to work on that were holding me back in this lifetime, because a lot of times we bring things from our past lives into
Oh, we
this
talked about
lifetime.
that. Soul contracts.
A lot of that comes up when I'm doing past life readings for other people as well.
She said I had access thrown at me, which would be parasites, I would assume, that stay on your aura, that penetrate and could eventually get into your physical body and become a disease. It was an anger spear or something.
Dang.
Strong intentions, but you also feel like you deserve that intention is how you allow it to get near you. So I knew what that was, but yeah.
I remember being an aquatic type creature as well. I haven't always been a human, y'all, and nobody has.
Yeah.
Like, we just keep going. And then I remember a few that were definitely not from this earth, lifetimes of being here as well. I'm still trying to learn from those so I don't have to come back. I don't want to come back here.
I don't think we're going to have to come
Oh
back.
my
I think
gosh.
we're all here to finally get us out of this loop that we've been
As a
stuck
collective.
in. Oh, as a collective.
And these new babies that are coming through right now, oh my God. And a lot of people are just like, no, the world is just shit. And I'm like, you can heal this world in one generation. You start your babies off with meditating and raising their vibration. When you're born, your energy field on the top of your head is like this huge silver cord that's still attached to the astral realm, and your root chakra is super small. It's little. Your root chakra grows until fully formed by about 1 or 2, and then your next chakra grows just like a tree would grow, just like everything in nature grows. So does the energy system. And then once you get to the crown, sometimes the crown isn't even fully formed until you're in your 20s or 40s.
Oh, yeah.
And then if we had a generation of children where their chakras and their energetic systems were growing properly without all this trauma and having an adult life that they didn't have to spend half of it healing from their childhood, we could heal this entire planet in one generation.
But I think it's happening.
It is happening, and that's why I'm so fucking excited about it. And we're evolving, so our kids are evolving. It might not be this next generation, but they're that next wave that's coming through, because
I was told 2035 we'll see something different.
I believe that. And it kind of comes in waves. You look back and you look at these scientists and these beautiful minds that are saying, I got this information from the astral realm, or while I took a nap, or when I did this or whatever. But they were so few and far between that everybody just called them crazy, got burned at the stake, shot and killed for whatever they were doing. So that was the first wave. And then a second wave comes through, then a third wave, and then the 70s, the 60s and the 70s, where everybody was fucking doing acid, tapping into that realm. They were another wave that paved the way for my generation, that paved the way for your generation. And it just keeps doing that. And the waves get bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of it just being the hippies.
This is a different aunt that I was talking about earlier. But my aunt, she got my niece into meditating. Are you guys familiar with med beds?
Oh, I've heard of them.
I've never heard of it.
They say eventually we're going to have the technology to have these beds that will literally heal anything that's in her physical body. So nobody's going to be on crutches. My niece, when she was meditating, she saw these med beds. Yeah.
How old is she?
Like 8.
Okay.
Oh, no, she's little. These aren't things that she saw or somebody told her. No, she's just meditating. And it was the cutest thing, too. When she was meditating, she said that she got risen up in a cloud, and then she got up to the clouds, and they told her to pick up all these stars and just sprinkle them around. And so she was picking up all these stars and just sprinkling them all around, like for everybody, like all over the world.
The mind of children.
They're closer to source at that point. That's why on TikTok you hear all these stories of kids that remember their past lives, and now we have documentation and connection between each other, because it's not just my cousin said that their child said this, or I know somebody that knows somebody that their child said this. These are thousands and thousands of stories that we're all watching collectively of these children remembering their past lives. It becomes very apparent that as a collective we're raising our consciousness because we're all connected now.
And I think technology has something to do with that, because like we were saying before, when I had my spiritual awakening through my near-death experience, there wasn't internet. I mean, there was, but it wasn't anything like it is. There was no TikTok, no Facebook, none of that stuff. MySpace came years after my experience.
Even on MySpace, there was nothing about stones and meditation. And
we're more open as a collective as well, because like in my day, if I was like, hey, Mom, like remember when I was the other little girl and I died? She's not going to like encourage that, or maybe she would, but she didn't know what to do with it. So now in this day and age, if that would have happened, I think my mom would have got on Google and she would have been joined a group. Does anybody else have a child that remembers their past life or whatever? Connections, like reaching out to other people and getting that fucking support.
Yes.
And we didn't have that back then. So now with like technology, now we have these groups that really we can find people that will support us in this. And we didn't have that before. So now this future generation is growing up with more, I don't want to say the word woke, but woke parents and parents that at least love their kids enough that if they don't understand, they seek out that knowledge to help their child through spiritual things like this.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I finished the rest of the chakras. I think we're on 12 now, I believe. Number 12 is the stellar gateway. And that one is pretty much just zen as fuck. You're almost in nirvana or the samadhi state. That's where Buddha, pretty much. It brings you to the astral realm. That's where everything is telepathic. So you can connect with a tree or you connect with a different being and there are no words. It's all vibration and everything's telepathy. When I was in that state and I went to the 12th dimension through that chakra, I met a dragon and it was the craziest, very high vibrational. It came into my line of vision, I want to say, but I was more like in the astral realm and I didn't have a body and I was just a pulsating energy, but I was still me. And it came up and it looked like a really big snake. And it was coiling and wrapping and spiraling. And I was like, whoa, that's snake energy. And I was trying to tap into that. And it turned its face to me and it looked at me. And it was the most brilliant white that I'd ever seen. You would think it would hurt my eyes, but it didn't. And he just looked at me and I was like, holy shit. And I was like, are you my dragon? He's like, are you my human? But it was all telepathy.
Yeah,
and
I know what you mean.
I fucking started laughing and it just shot me right back into my body. And I was like, fuck, man, I was in the dragon realm. I couldn't hold my vibration there because I laughed. And then, of course, I have to back that up. So I start researching it and they're like, yeah, dragons will speak telepathically, but like in Alice in Wonderland where they speak in metaphors. And I was like, that's exactly what happened to me. But I got this message of, yes, I am a part of you. I'm a part of your consciousness and your existence. And with me behind you, what the fuck are you worried about down there? It gave me this overwhelming feeling of I'm so fucking protected. I have a dragon connected to my energy and it's amazing.
I have a friend that dreamwalks and she says she has a dragon that protects her when she dreamwalks.
I believe that. Oh, 144,000. You're looking at chakras, the 7 main chakras. They have lotus petals and they all have a number. So there's 4 in the root and so on. And when you get up to the crown chakra, that's 1,000. And if you add those all together, it's 144,000. So the Christian Kundalini symbolism is that Jesus Christ lived for 33 years, which is symbolic to the serpent energy, which is the Kundalini energy. And it ascends up the spine, the 33 vertebrae, up to the crown chakra where the Christ consciousness resides. So after the death of Christ, it's said that it first settles in hell, which is the root chakra. And then it travels all the way up the other 7 chakras to the crown, which is heaven. And so when you raise the serpent energy to the crown through spiritual practice, you become your own God or king, kingdom, the kingdom of heaven.
Okay. You are your own God.
Unto yourself.
Which is what I've heard say that Christ God came and when he started spreading his gospel or whatever,
Right.
it was when he was spreading Christ's consciousness.
Wait, so is Jesus a shaman?
Jesus is a shaman.
Because he died and came back.
Yes, and telling everybody you are your own God.
Right. And then once he reached that level, he died at 33 vertebrae,
Oh, shit.
33 ascending up the spine to the crown chakra. Then he was crucified. And so I feel like this is just metaphoric. So he's crucified and then he is resurrected. So I feel like it was an ego death and then he was resurrected and he came back.
Dark night of the soul.
Dark night of the motherfucking soul. Exactly. If you really, really think about it, everybody goes through that in their lifetime. Almost everybody, right? Unless there's like some weird glitch in the matrix where you don't ever feel anything painful in your life. But you start off, you're developing your root chakra, like I was talking about when you're a newborn baby, and you're developing it. And that's kind of hell. You can't really walk. You can't do anything. You're dependent on other people. It's a lot of traumatic things that you go through with your root chakra. growing. But when you have a Kundalini experience, you awaken this energy that sits in that base of your spine in that hell state. And it wakes up sometimes through tragedy, sometimes through a death or a severe breakup, or any kind of tragic thing can sometimes awaken the Kundalini.
Like trigger it, almost like an epiphany.
Yeah. So it triggers this awakening. And some people are triggered into awakening in a very peaceful, tranquil way.
Mine was not.
Well, mine was not either. And so, yeah, and it triggers that Kundalini energy to travel up your spine. And it tells the story in the Bible about Jesus. And then it travels up these things, and you go through all these things in your life, right? You go through these sexual experiences, and you go through these experiences that test your will. So on your way and through your journey, you have people who are like, I'm down for you no matter what, right? Like, I'm going to have your back. I'm going to fucking love you forever no matter what happens. And then shit goes down and you turn around, and those people that you thought were going to be there are not there for you. So like in the Bible, it's talking about when Jesus got captured and he was taking that walk and he was about to be crucified and killed. Those people that were supposed to have his back were on the sidelines throwing stones at him because they didn't want to get in trouble, because they didn't want to die. They weren't willing to go all the way in with him. And we all go through something like that in our life, where we think this person loves us and they got our back, and then we turn around and shit goes down and they're not there. That's kind of like the crucifixion. And when you go through a traumatic event, it can lead you to an ego death. It can lead you to Christ consciousness.
Oh, yes.
I get the Bible, but if you really read the Bible, I mean, if you can read between the lines with that story corresponds with it. And it's the 144,000.
Makes so much sense.
And that's within our own bodies, within every single person. It's not, oh, am I going to be righteous enough to be one of the chosen? You fucking are the chosen, but it's your choice. Like we said earlier, this is a game. And some people are just here to play the motherfucking game. They don't want to wake up.
They just want to be narcissists.
And it's okay, because we all have our purpose here in this lifetime.
Whoever's still listening after all this, you're not here to just play. You're here to evolve and grow. And yeah, we appreciate you guys listening.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
So that wraps up this amazing episode. Arlene, thank you so much for being on here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for having me on.
If you guys want a Reiki healing from Arlene, check out her business plug in our description in the episode. If you're wanting something more shamanistic
And violent.
Yeah. Book a session with Sahdi at her website in the description. And as always, keep your minds open.
Namaste.
Namaste.